Hold up.
Hey guys, it is Tristan with NewsStand, and is it okay to race swap a character in the comics or in the movie? This is something that comes up quite often in Hollywood and quite often in the comment section, so I felt like it was finally time we did a dedicated video specifically to the subject. But the truth is, there's really no right answer. Maybe a more educated answer: you wouldn't trust your local bum, right, to be your doctor. Maybe don't trust your local insane person on the internet for your opinions on comment. But even so, we are going to cover tokenism. Yes, I know. Forced diversity, whitewashing, and yeah, even blackwashing. So sit back, love on the like button, grab some popcorn, because we are about to get deep. That's what she said. Sorry, I had to. Moving back on. Our race is central to many of our identities, right? Race, gender, sexuality, they all matter. It is a strong component of our identity. As upset as you may be that your favorite character is race bent, a black person may be just as upset that they have no representation. Now, I am not talking stereotypical race swaps here, right? As much as I like Ryan Choi as Adam, taking a smart character and making him Asian isn't exactly good representation. Same with Amadeus Cho. Or imagine with me, if you will, if they race bent Moon Knight with that white hood, I don't think he'd be invited to any family barbecues. Just saying. I am talking good representation. Hugo Strange is a perfect example. In Gotham, Hugo Strange is Hugo Strange, and the best version I have ever seen, and is played by B.D. Wong. The biggest reason characters are changed is because they no longer reflect today's society and changing demographics. That many of these characters were created in the 60s was about 88.6% white Caucasian population, with it now being less than 60%, not to mention many characters were simply white by default because it was created in a different time. More on that later. But if Hollywood adapted every old character from DC and Marvel, or even add in gaming and movies, the majority of them would be straight white men. And that's okay. But I'm telling you, from a business standpoint, that would be a huge alienation to a huge portion of an audience that you could have. Now, on to that idea of tokenism. I don't care, honestly, what your definition of tokenism is, because it's likely not the real definition, and changing the definition of terms is a typical move done by those losing an argument. The definition of tokenism is the practice of making only a perfunctory or symbolic effort to do a particular thing, especially by recruiting a small number of people from an underrepresented group in order to give the appearance of racial or sexual equality within a workforce, right? So in a nutshell, doing the bare minimum for representation to look good, but never hiring from underrepresented groups again, never reaching for diversity again, and so on and so forth. So is a race swap a token? Not usually. Can it be? Absolutely. This is also very similar to the idea of forced diversity. The idea that a company creates a superficial idea of diversity for the sake of diversity and diversity alone, usually at the expense of the story and the forced diversity's sake. The problem with forced diversity argument is that you are insinuating that white men are the default, and by adding a person of color or a woman, there needs to be some huge backstory or explanation to actually bring them there. Then to add insult to injury, that woman or person of color must be well thought out character with deep meaning and consequence. Even though there are plenty of terribly written white male characters, they can exist without complaint. Why does a female character, going on what I know, need more purpose and struggle than any white male character? It's dumb. See Jason Todd from Titans. Just saying. Joker from Suicide Squad. Just saying. We do not ever demand that level of complexity from white male characters. Why demand them from women or people of color? And if they do not deliver, they're forced diversity. Is their ethnicity tied to their story? That's a big deal. Steve Rogers, along with T'Challa. Yeah, absolutely. Can't race swap them. James and Barbara Gordon, not so much. Luke Cage, yes, he's a black man from Harlan. His identity is tied to his experience and perspective as a black man. But there are plenty that you can. Is this an historical figure? The most egregious I have seen of this lately is the Anne Boleyn catastrophe. That's a historical figure. You would not do that to Rosa Parks. Don't do that to Anne Boleyn. It's history. You don't want to change history. Now, Triss from The Witcher? No, not so much. So, does it add or take away from the story? This race swap, does it add to the story? Does it take something away? That's really important. Are there multiversal versions that can be used instead? And we had this recently conversation with the J.J. Abrams Superman, Kal-El. You could use Calvin Ellis. Or Spider-Man. You could use Miles Morales. Now, does it make you racist for not liking a race swap? Of course not. Not every character is our favorite, but every character that we love is special to us for a reason we only know, right? Hence why I was upset when it was done with Cyclone. She was that wholesome, goofy, never serious girl next door, short, cute, but fiery as hell. I always saw myself in her. And that was taken away from me and given to a different demographic. So I understand the issue here. Does it make me a racist? Of course not. Doesn't you either. Now, let's talk about actors. Is that actor the best for that role? Samuel Jackson as Nick Fury? Yes. Zazie Beetz as Domino? Yes. But would we have been happier to see Monica Rambeau first before Brie Larson? I think for most of us, that answer is yes. Now, Michael B. Jordan, Idris Elba, give them any role. And they're going to nail it in any role. And they're going to look good doing it. What about Halle Berry and Catwoman? Or Callisto and X-Men? Both huge blunders that could have been portrayed better. They were clearly not that right person for the job. Is whitewashing an issue? Kinda. Yes. Again, it's complicated, but yes. We see it all the time. It's just not really talked about. So Ghost in the Shell, Liam Neeson and Ra's playing Ra's al Ghul. There are hundreds of examples, but they won't get that attention because it's not easily marketable. The Last Airbender, Josh Hartnett in 30 Days of Night, Death Note, Tilda Swanson in Doctor Strange, Dragon Ball Evolution, The Hunger Games, Angelina Jolie in Wanted, the original Mortal Kombat, The New Mutants, the original Spawn movie, Whitewashed Terry Fitzgerald, with Todd McFarlane specifically saying that the decision was based on the cold reality that if people perceive this as a black movie, there would be no way they could receive the $45 million they were after. There are so many more, but you get my point. When Hollywood takes a fewer examples of canon representation that POC have, you are taking away an opportunity for them to be seen. Is blackwashing an issue? Now that goes back to my original points, the original questions I asked. And the answer is, unfortunately, it's complicated. Most superheroes are white and were made white in the 60s and 70s because they wanted to appeal to Southern readers and knew that prejudice still exists. So they opted to almost cater exclusively to that white male audience. They didn't want decreases in sales, not to mention some publishers would push back and refuse to print them. Now let's go on to the typical arguments. Let's dismantle them, actually. Let's make Black Panther white. I did do a whole video dedicated to this, debunking it, and it's easy. There are certain characters, like I said in the beginning, that cannot be black. Captain America and Batman. There are certain characters, like Black Panther and Luke Cage that cannot be white. Black Panther is of an old ancient tribe. For characters like Blade, it's a little bit more of a moral quandary, right? Since he is not technically tied to his ethnicity, but is in fact defined by it and the community. That one's a little harder. I would like to know your input in the comments below. So, use Black characters already created. I agree, 100%. But as I am not in charge of these companies, and these companies do rely on capitalism, the idea of a more well-known character to be more appealing to a larger audience is what they go with. They know they're going to make more money. Capitalism at its finest, right? So, create new characters. It is ideal, right? But it takes time. Look at Naomi, a character I've talked about many times on this channel. Even her inception caused many to be annoyed when she was added to the Justice League. Not me. I totally didn't do any of that, right? So, not to mention, a lot of these are not accepted because they'll be automatically a brand new character like Naomi. Oh, diversity, representation, forced diversity. Something will be tagged. Oh, it's woke. Something will be tagged on its back and it'll automatically be written off and not accepted. So at the end of the day, what's the truth about all of this? It's complicated. Not only is it complicated, it's fucking complicated. Welcome to the real world. Everything is more nuanced and complicated than ever presented online. Make up your own mind. That's really all I ask. And I think the best way to look at certain characters are to simply use an educated opinion as to their ethnicities, their ties, everything else. So let me know, of course, when and when not in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.